Have you ever asked yourself, what would I do if my spouse passed away before me? It's a question many avoid. And when the unthinkable happens, most find themselves lost in a storm of grief, confusion, and decisions they never expected to face alone. No matter how long you were together or how strong your bond was, the death of a spouse changes everything. It shakes the very foundation of your life, replacing familiar sounds with silence and flooding your days with aching quiet and tasks you never asked for. But this video isn't about legal documents or funeral plans. It's about what to do first, for yourself, emotionally, practically, to survive those first heavy waves of loss. We're going to walk through 6 essential steps that will help you find a sense of steadiness during one of life's most painful seasons. These aren't distant instructions or textbook advice. They're grounded in compassion, experience, and the reality that grief has no manual. Each of these 6 steps comes from what real people, just like you, have found to be essential in beginning to heal. While none of them can erase the pain, they can offer something just as important: direction, support, and hope. And please, stay with me until the end, because the 6th step is one that most people overlook, yet it often determines how the rest of your life unfolds after loss. Let's begin. Step 1. Feel first, fix later. When your spouse dies, the world doesn't just go quiet, it goes numb. The routines you shared, the morning coffee chats, the creak of their footsteps in the hallway, suddenly they're gone. And the silence that remains doesn't just fill the room, it settles deep in your chest. In those early days, you may feel an overwhelming urge to start making calls, filling out paperwork, cleaning closets, anything to stay busy enough not to feel the full weight of the loss. But here's the truth. Before you do anything else, you need to let yourself feel. That doesn't mean falling apart or giving up. It means giving yourself permission to grieve, without guilt, without pressure, and without any expectation of what it should look like. There is no right way to mourn. There is no clock ticking down the moment when the tears should stop or the loneliness should fade. What matters is that you don't bury the feelings so deep that they harden. Because when grief is ignored, it doesn't vanish, it festers. And when it resurfaces later, it often brings more pain and confusion. Some people believe showing emotion means weakness. You may hear things like, "I have to be strong for the kids," or "He wouldn't want me to cry." But strength doesn't mean silence. True strength is found in honesty, in allowing yourself to acknowledge the depth of your love and the emptiness left behind. Take Evelyn, for example, an 81-year-old widow who lost her husband after 52 years together. In the first week, she threw herself into organizing, cleaning, and telling everyone she was just fine. But late at night, she'd find herself sitting in front of his favorite chair, not because she missed him, she told herself, but because she couldn't admit how much she did. It wasn't until she finally allowed herself to cry, really cry, that something inside her shifted, not because the pain disappeared, but because she gave it space to breathe. Grief isn't something you solve, it's something you carry. And the only way to carry it well is to face it with honesty. So if your spouse passes before you, don't rush to fix everything. Pause. Let yourself feel, even if it hurts. Cry, talk about them. Say out loud that nothing makes sense yet. You don't need to have a plan. You just need to be real. Because healing always begins with truth. Step 2. Reach out before loneliness sets in. In the days immediately following the death of your spouse, you'll likely be surrounded by kindness, calls, texts, visitors, meals on the porch. But all of that begins to slow. The calls taper off, the doorbell stops ringing. And before you realize it, the quiet can turn into something more dangerous: isolation. That's why one of the most important things you can do early on is this: reach out. Before the loneliness settles in too deeply, you don't need to make grand gestures or say anything profound. You simply need to let someone know, "I'm still here, and I could use a little company." Don't wait for others to make the first move. Even the people who love you most may be unsure of what to say or afraid of intruding. Grief makes everyone uncomfortable, and that often leads to silence. By making a small effort, returning a call, sending a message, opening your door, you create a vital lifeline, not just emotionally, but physically. Because isolation after loss doesn't just hurt emotionally, it affects your body, your memory, your sleep, even your immune system. Let's talk about Jim, a 77-year-old man who lost his wife after a long illness. At first, friends and family called every day, but he rarely answered. He didn't want to explain what happened. He didn't want to pretend he was okay. Eventually, the calls stopped. The house got quiet, and Jim sank deeper into that quiet, without even noticing. It wasn't until a neighbor knocked on his door, weeks later, that he realized how far he'd slipped. From that day forward, he made a small promise: just one real connection a day. A call, a coffee, a short walk with a friend. That simple routine became a lifeline. Grief tells you you're alone. Connection reminds you that you're not. You don't have to share your whole story. You don't have to talk about the loss at all. But please, don't isolate. Let others in, even a little. It makes a bigger difference than you can imagine. In the early days of grief, you may not be ready to talk about your spouse or the pain you're feeling. And that's okay. You can talk about the weather. You can share a funny story from decades ago. You can just sit in silence, holding a warm cup of tea while someone sits nearby. What matters isn't what you say. It's that you're not alone. The presence of another human being on the other end of the phone or across the table can offer a quiet but powerful comfort. And if you don't have close family nearby, or you're worried about being a burden, remember this: many communities have resources designed exactly for moments like this. Grief support groups, senior centers, churches, even local volunteers who will sit with you, talk with you, or simply be a silent, comforting companion. Reaching out doesn't mean you're admitting defeat. It means you're choosing not to carry your pain alone. Because the first few weeks after losing a spouse aren't just emotionally dangerous, they're physically risky too. Your body is under stress. Your immune system takes a hit. Your mind can become foggy. And your heart, already fragile, becomes even more vulnerable. That's why social connection acts like emotional scaffolding, a kind of invisible support system that holds you up while you slowly begin to find your balance again. If you're still watching this video and you've found these insights helpful, I'd love for you to comment number 2 below. It lets me know you're here, and it reminds others in the comments that they're not alone either. And if you haven't already, please take a second to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a video that might support or uplift you in your journey. Now, let's move forward. Step 3. The urgency of organizing critical documents. When your spouse passes, it can feel like time should stop. But it doesn't. The world keeps moving. Bills still arrive. Bank accounts need updating. Services still expect answers. And in the middle of your grief, when you're tired and tender, you're suddenly faced with decisions you may not feel ready to make. That's why this step is so important. Organize all critical documents as soon and as gently as you can. This isn't about being cold or transactional. It's about protecting yourself and honoring the life your spouse helped build. You'll need to locate and review documents like the will, life insurance policies, bank account details, marriage and death certificates, property deeds, pension or retirement account information, any military or veterans documents. You may need these faster than you think. Life insurance claims often have time limits. Social Security needs to be notified. Utility accounts may require updates or changes. Delaying too long or rushing without guidance can create unnecessary complications, financial ones that are hard to reverse later. Think about someone like Harold, a 79-year-old man who lost his wife unexpectedly. She had always handled the paperwork, the files, the insurance. So when she passed, Harold didn't even know where the life insurance policy was. Weeks later, he found it tucked in a sewing drawer after he'd already drained his own savings to cover unexpected expenses. It wasn't neglect. It was grief and a lack of guidance in a time of chaos. If you feel too overwhelmed to face the paperwork on your own, ask someone you trust to sit with you. A family member, a friend, a faith leader, or even a financial advisor. Anyone who can help you move slowly and keep track of what's been found and what still needs attention. Here are some simple tips. Create a checklist of needed documents. Use a folder or box to keep everything in one place. Make copies of essentials. Write down account numbers, passwords, and contributee names. Think of this step not just as paperwork, but as a form of protection. You're not just organizing details. You're guarding your future, ensuring that your spouse's legacy is handled with care, and giving yourself space to grieve without additional chaos. You don't need to finish in one day, but you do need to begin. And in doing so, you may discover that even in the midst of sorrow, a little structure can bring a sense of calm to a world that feels like it's fallen apart. Step 4. The discipline of protecting your health. Grief doesn't only break your heart, it affects your entire body. In the days and weeks after losing a spouse, even the most basic acts of self-care can feel impossible. You might skip meals, struggle to sleep, forget your medications, or lose the motivation to even brush your teeth or take a short walk. But this is the time, more than ever, when protecting your health is crucial. Grief puts your body under immense stress. Cortisol levels rise. Your immune system weakens. Your risk for heart problems increases, and depression can creep in quietly. Taking care of yourself right now may feel like a chore, but it's not about perfection. It's about intention. Eat small, nourishing meals, even if you don't feel hungry. Drink water. Try to get sunlight and gentle movement. Take your medications. Give yourself a regular bedtime, even if you don't fall asleep right away. This discipline of self-care isn't about pretending everything is okay. It's about making sure that you don't fall apart while trying to hold everything else together. Because your health matters, not just to you, but to the people who still need you, to the friends and family who love you, to the future version of yourself who will feel joy again, even if you don't believe it yet. Step 4. The discipline of protecting your health. Losing a spouse doesn't just disrupt your routines. It can quietly put your physical well-being at risk in ways you may not expect. Many widowed seniors experience sudden weight loss, fatigue, digestive problems, chest tightness, and forgetfulness, not because they're physically ill, but because their bodies are reacting to the shock and strain of deep emotional distress. This kind of prolonged stress can weaken the immune system, raise blood pressure, disrupt hormone balance, and worsen pre-existing conditions. Grief is real, and so is the toll it takes on your body. But here's the good news. You don't need to rebuild your whole life in one go. You don't need a perfect routine, a gym membership, or a brand new diet. You just need to give your body basic care, even if it feels hollow at first. That means eating something nourishing at regular intervals, even if it's just a few bites. Moving your body, even just a short walk around the block, or some gentle stretching. Going to bed at a consistent time, even if sleep is hard to come by. These aren't just health tips. They are acts of survival. Take Margaret, for example, an 84-year-old woman who lost her husband of 60 years. In the weeks following his death, she was so overwhelmed, she skipped meals and forgot her blood pressure medication. It wasn't until she fainted at the grocery store that her daughter realized Margaret wasn't just grieving. Her body was crying out for help. Once she began writing down her routine, meals, water, medications, and daily check-ins, her strength gradually returned. So did her mental clarity. There's a saying in grief counseling: when you don't know what to do, care for the animal in you. Feed it, hydrate it, let it rest, let it move. Because underneath all the pain, your body is still here, still trying to find balance, and it needs your help to get there. You may not feel hungry. Eat anyway. You may not feel tired. Lie down anyway. You may not want to get dressed. Do it anyway. Not because you're faking strength, but because you're rebuilding it. One quiet, intentional decision at a time. And please, don't hesitate to reach out to your doctor during this time. Even if you think it's just stress, it's worth checking in. A conversation, a routine checkup, or simply being heard by a medical professional can bring much-needed grounding and peace of mind. Taking care of yourself doesn't mean you're moving on. It doesn't mean you're forgetting. It means you're honoring your spouse by not losing yourself in the process. If you're still watching and you've found this message meaningful, please comment number 4 below to let me know you're here. And if you haven't already, please subscribe and turn on the bell so you don't miss future videos. Your support helps us continue creating content that informs, supports, and uplifts our community. Let's move forward. Step 5. The danger of rushed decisions after loss. In the immediate aftermath of losing a spouse, there's often a strong impulse to make big changes. You might feel tempted to sell the house, move closer to family, get rid of your spouse's belongings, close accounts, or make major financial decisions. It's completely understandable. When your world feels upside down, changing your environment can seem like the only way to feel in control. But here's a hard truth. Most major decisions made during the early stages of grief are decisions people later regret. This doesn't mean you won't eventually need or want to make changes, but right now, your heart is raw, your mind is foggy, and what feels like a solution today may become a source of pain later. Let's take George, age 76. He lost his wife suddenly after a stroke. Within 2 weeks, he sold their home and moved into a small apartment near his son, thinking the move would help him feel less alone. But once the dust settled, George found himself grieving not just the loss of his wife, but the loss of the home they'd built together. He missed his neighbors. He missed his garden. He missed the kitchen they'd remodeled just a few years before. The apartment, while practical, felt foreign. And now, George had 2 losses to process: the person he loved and the life they shared. Grief needs space. And part of that space includes waiting before making permanent changes. You don't have to take down your spouse's photos tomorrow. You don't have to decide today whether to sell the house, close the account, or donate the clothes. You're allowed to pause. You're allowed to live in the in-between. Because healing doesn't happen in haste. It happens in gentle, deliberate steps, guided by clarity, not panic. Give yourself permission to pause. If you're feeling pressure from yourself or others to move on, sell the house, or pack away your spouse's belongings, remember this: you are allowed to pause. This isn't about clinging to the past. It's about giving your emotions time to catch up with your reality. Acting quickly might bring temporary relief, but rushed decisions often leave behind emotional scars that take years to heal. This is especially true when it comes to financial matters. Signing papers, selling assets, or altering investments should be approached with caution, and ideally with help from someone you trust. That might be a financial advisor, a level-headed family member, or a wise friend, someone not emotionally entangled in the grief. Having another set of eyes protects you from making decisions out of confusion, exhaustion, or desperation. What you're carrying is heavy. There is no shame in taking your time. In fact, it's one of the wisest things you can do. The goal isn't to avoid action forever. It's to act from a place of clarity, not reaction. And clarity only comes with time, rest, and support. You've already endured one enormous change. Don't multiply the pain by rushing into more. Let yourself adjust. Let the fog lift. And when the moment is right, you'll know. You'll feel more grounded, more ready, more able to step forward without losing what matters from the past. Step 6. The quiet work of rebuilding your identity. When your spouse dies, you're not just grieving their absence. You're grieving the version of yourself that existed beside them. You were part of a team, a rhythm, a partnership with its own language. Maybe you were known as John and Mary, or simply us. But now, there is no we, and that shift runs deep. At first, you may be focused on logistics, arrangements, visitors, paperwork. But eventually, in the quiet, a new question emerges. Who am I now? Most people aren't prepared for that question. For years, maybe decades, your life revolved around shared routines, shared meals, shared decisions, even jokes that only the two of you understood. Without that presence, your role shifts. You're no longer the spouse or caretaker in the same way. And while your love doesn't disappear, it never does. The structure that held it has changed. This stage of grief is rarely discussed, but it matters deeply. Because now begins the quiet, gradual work of rebuilding your sense of self. Not as a replacement, but as an evolution. It's giving yourself permission to ask, what do I enjoy now? What does peace feel like to me? What do I want this next chapter of life to be about, even if it looks nothing like I imagined? Take Irene, age 82. She lost her husband of 55 years. In the beginning, she left everything the same: his slippers by the door, his coffee mug on the counter. But months later, she began painting again, something she hadn't done since her 20s, not to forget, but to reconnect with herself. It didn't mean she loved her husband any less. It meant she was still alive and needed to keep living. You're allowed to change. You're allowed to grow. You're allowed to become someone new, even while holding on to the memory of who you were together. Rebuilding your identity doesn't betray the past. It honors it by continuing forward with intention. Maybe that means joining a group. Maybe it means traveling somewhere you always dreamed of. Maybe it means discovering joy in your own quiet company. These are not replacements for love. They are responses to life. And you don't have to figure it all out at once. You won't. Your new identity will reveal itself inch by inch, day by day. Each new habit, each tiny curiosity, each act of care, it's all part of reclaiming your story. Because you are not just who you were with your spouse, you are also who you are becoming. And that version of you deserves love too. If you're still with me and this message is resonating, please comment number 6 below. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I invite you to do so and turn on notifications so you never miss a video that could support you or someone you love. Final thoughts. Losing your spouse is one of life's deepest wounds. It doesn't just take away the person you love. It takes away the rhythm of your days, the sound of your home, the feeling of being known, without having to explain yourself. Nothing prepares you for that silence, and nothing can fill it completely. But even in that silence, there are things you can do. Small, human, compassionate things that help you survive the storm and slowly, carefully, begin again. The 6 steps we've shared in this video aren't rules. They are anchors, steady places to hold on to when the grief feels too big. Feel before you fix. Reach out early. Gather your documents. Care for your health. Avoid rushed decisions. Rebuild your identity. None of them are easy, but each one matters. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to move quickly. You just have to keep going. And if you take nothing else from this video, let it be this: you are not alone. Others have walked this road. Others are walking it now. And each of them, just like you, is learning how to live with a heart that's been broken open. Grief doesn't mean your story is over. It means a new chapter has begun. One you never asked for. One you never wanted, but one that is still yours to write. And in that chapter, you get to choose what healing looks like, what love still means, what life can become, even after goodbye. Thank you for spending this time with us. We'd love to hear from you. Leave a comment and share one thing you learned today, or how you plan to use it in your life. Your voice matters here. If you found this video helpful, please like, subscribe, and share. Your support helps us continue creating thoughtful content to inform and inspire. We're honored to walk with you. See you in the next video.